right, good morning, everybody. Wherever you are, good morning. Okay, prayer time. Make me resilient. I marvel at the resilience of nature, Lord. No matter where I look, I see a theater of life in motion. I wonder what my life looks like from a distance. What I would see if I could view my life through a wide cosmic lens. Would I even comprehend the significance of all the many currents of life flowing to me, or those avoiding me, as well as those that would appear to embrace me? What I would observe, I suspect, is that the flow of life, the continuum of life, does not stop for anything or anyone. No one's problems or heartaches or resentments are deep enough or unique enough to stop or shift the natural rhythms or cycles of life. Forests burn and then produce new growth. Earthquakes shape the earth anew. Land rises and falls. No natural form of life mourns the organic shifting of the sands of time except we humans, Lord. Again and again, we plant our feet firmly on shaking ground, determined to stop fires in the forest and erupting earthquakes from their task of breaking new ground, wide open because we do not want our lives, our personal worlds to change. You know, Lord, I want to stop the cycles of life because I'm not sure when those cycles will collapse the walls of my own life or bring some part of my life to a halt. I'm not certain I have the resilience to start anew again and again as nature does, and yet I have experienced the grace of resilience flooding into my blood and bones in exactly the second that I need it most. Just when I felt despair approach the energy of my heart, suddenly in an instant, all I could think of was everything will be fine. Despair shattered like fragile, thin glass. I wondered how I had come up with such a positive thought, much less how it was that I actually believed it. Somehow in that moment, not only did I believe all would be well, I knew it with all my heart and soul. For me, the crisis that had so frightened me ended in that instant, and I felt your message melt into me. I would be fine. Everything will be fine. I knew then that I had to relinquish my idea about wanting a certain outcome and let the wisdom plan of my life take over. Whatever I had to deal with so far as people and the everyday details of my life felt like ordinary paperwork. Lord, grant me the grace of resilience in all ways. It is exhausting to try to control all the rivers that flow into my life. The better choice is to become a good passenger, skilled in navigating the ways and cycles of nature. For as we learn to become one with all nature, we find our way to you. Amen. That's beautiful. I did.
Can we get a copy when we leave?
In my book. Not to my book. Don't release. My book is Holy Language, Prayer, Grace, and Guidance. And I wrote guidance and grace after it. Do you want that? Do you want me to read that? No. Yeah?
Yes,
Do you want me to?
Yes.
Okay, in the book, I have every page is the prayer, and then beneath it, guidance, and beneath that, grace. So the guidance that goes with that is we have endless opportunities that require the grace of resilience each day of our lives. It takes resilience to decide to initiate a new pattern in your life because you must battle the part of you that won't let go of an old pattern. It takes resilience to continue to nurture a creative vision that only you believe in. It takes the grace of resilience to get up in the morning when you're overwhelmed with problems. Nature is a living theater of the truth, that the organic design of living creatures is to be resilient, to survive, to adjust, to find a way through difficulties. We are not good with defeat. That's why we can't accept defeat. But we each have a phoenix in us that calls us to rise again and again from the ashes of our despair or our challenges. We are born resilient. Okay, grace. Resilience is a powerful grace that enhances our natural instincts to get up and try again. It offers a person a type of blink-of-an-eye chance to reshape their thinking and attitude through a positive lens. This grace is like a booster shot that we receive when our psychic immune system is depleted. A person can suddenly feel hopeful, re-energized, and even experience a diminishing of physical aches and pains as a result of resilience. So that's how the book is.
Well, I can't wait till it comes out.
Yeah, you like it already?
So those of us here are getting all signed copies, right?
Okay, all right. Don't release the prayer. Any of them. All right. Okay. Now, holy language. See how holy language makes you feel? Isn't that amazing? Okay, and it touches, but what do you think it touches in you? I got to take this off. Wait a minute. So I have to do this consciously, otherwise the microphone will fly out of my back pocket. Okay. So what does holy language touch in you? All right, and I'm going to just ask that for a moment because it touches something in you that ordinary, oh, you'll feel better. You'll feel better. This will work out. Doesn't touch. When you have something going on in you, and you're going through a difficult passage, and someone says to you, don't you worry. Don't you worry. This will work out, no matter how well-meaning they are. And they say something like, don't you worry, this will work out. It doesn't hit that spot, that spiritual sweet spot. They mean well, and in the moment, you feel thank you. And you may feel comforted, but you don't feel safe. You don't, here's the operative word, here's the holy word, believe it. Believe. There's nothing that says, you're right, I will be okay. Okay. So what is holy? What is that? What does the word holy mean? I could enter this topic through so many different passages. And I got up at 5 this morning. And I sat with myself and I said, what door do I come into this through? Which one? Which one is going to be the best? Through defining the holy and going that way? Through talking about this way, through talking about that way. But I think that, because I haven't taught this before, so I'm studying myself here. So I think for me, for this subject, I am going to enter into this by going through you, by having you pay attention and heightening up an awareness in you that you really become deeply aware of how much you have changed and how much a part of that change has been a repelling of the sacred. And how much you have shut that out of your life in ways known and unknown to you. And how much the world we are living in has shut down access to the sacred, consciously, unconsciously, deliberately. And what the consequences to that have been to the collective. In one general statement, I want you to just observe something that is a phenomenon of our time and only our time in the history of humanity. We are the only society that has lived in an atmosphere that questions the existence of God. There has never been a time when the global community questions the existence of God. And when asking about God more brings about disdain in somebody than a sense of assumption that the person you're dealing with believes in some form of a source greater than themselves. Prior to now, everybody assumed that the human being they were dealing with had some kind of connection to something holy. Even if they did not believe in the holy something that that person was connected to. Even if they thought, you're nothing but a Protestant, or you're nothing but a this, or a Druid, or whatever, it was an argument about God. That person believed in God was not a question. There were the occasional atheists, but everybody was like, what? And even an atheist is someone who just argues philosophically at the end of the day. That's all. They're just, shut up. Talk to me when you're on your deathbed. All atheists I meet are healthy. Call me when you've got cancer. Call me when you've got cancer. Okay. So, so it is a phenomenon of our time. A phenomenon of our time. So I wanted to say that we have gone through, in these last 7 decades, this extraordinary morphing of becoming a society of human beings globally that have tossed out access to the sacred because of this. We've catapulted ourselves into what we consider to be an intellectual atmosphere of what we think. We have grown so impressed with our intellect that we're out of control. And we have, it's interesting that we have, in my opinion, come to the end of the age of reason. We have never been more unreasonable, but we think of ourselves as intellectual giants. When in fact, we have what kind of species creates its own weapons of mass destruction with no other place to go, and thinks that figuring out a way to destroy themselves is an accomplishment, and actually convincing themselves that destroying half the planet won't destroy them, that their water supply will be fine while wiping out other people's water supply, as if the planet won't spin under their toxic air within hours. And they consider this an accomplishment. Now, I introduced this, and I have to finish this so I can adjust your sights as I continue. With every floor you go on, The point is that your capacity to understand something becomes more symbolic instead of literal. And therein lies your skill. That the leading reason people get sick in life, I wouldn't have said this years ago, but now I will say it, that the reason you lose power, this is you losing power. I'm going to draw it a little better because of people watching it. This is you losing power. 90% of the reason you suffer is self-created. And the reason is because you take things personally. You take things personally. Things that people say. You take the day personally. You say things like, was it something I said? You won't even let people have their own bad day. Was it something I did? You interpret the world as if it belonged to you. As if it was your world. As if everything was created for you and everything is personal. One of the great teachings of Buddha was everything's an illusion. There's nothing personal about anything. We visit this planet for a very short period of time, 50, 60, 80 years that go by in a blink of an eye. Most of us are coming to the end of our journey. We have no idea when we're going to leave. It's not revealed on our face, but we can be sure as our face does get older, we're getting closer to our exit. It's very brief. This is not our planet, and nobody was born to serve us. And the events unfolding on this planet do not unfold because of us, for us, in any way. So to say, I need to understand why this happened to me, is a prayer that will never get answered. Is a prayer that will absolutely never get answered. And I'm going down this road because the major reason you lose your soul, the major reason you will not open your intuitive system as fully as it is opening now in this era, is because that level of perception is something that has to be, in order to have that level of perception be really clear, and here's the operative holy word, for you to become discerning. The word is discerning. For you to learn and evolve into discernment. It is an impersonal grace. Grace is impersonal. Grace is not a personal force. When someone says, what is grace feel? Grace is impersonal. And discernment's the capacity to see clearly through holy eyes. To see clearly through holy eyes. I need to discern what is the truth here. And it means without my private agenda as a priority. Without my private agenda. Without me wanting to win. Without me wanting to control Nancy. What is the truth? Why has God brought us together? What I need to discern. What do I have wisdom that I need? How am I here to help you with something with my skills? Or are you? Do I need to ask you something? I need to discern this. Without discernment, maybe I would withhold because of shame. Without discernment, maybe this is the person who can get me out of my pain. Without discernment, maybe I would not ask because I am afraid of being humiliated. Discernment is the grace that allows me to see this. But if I am in this toxic state of taking everything personally, I will only see through shame, embarrassment, and the fear of being humiliated. Are you with me here? And as you go up the floors, you enter into the impersonal experience of your own life. The impersonal. This is the altitude I want you to get to. The Buddha altitude, the Christ altitude. I'm going to hit a pause button here. I can speak of Buddhism a lot, and nobody thinks I'm converting them to Buddhism. I speak of Jesus, and people think I'm converting them to Christianity. Snap out of it. Do you understand me? Snap out of it. I am not converting you to Christianity. I am not a preacher. I'm not a fundamentalist. And I will speak about Jesus as the holy teacher that he was. But the fact that you hear it that way is something we need to speak about. Because that is exactly what I'm talking to you about. That is how you threw out holy language. Because you're repelled even by the name. You find the name Jesus repulsive, repellent. Oh no, it's a Christian. And she's coming at me with Christianity. Oh no, got to throw that out. Followed by those horrible priests. Followed by yick, yick, yick. And that's what comes at me in a tsunami. And that's how all that holy language got tossed. So what people did was they threw out the mystical jewels with very dirty bathwater. And it is dirty bathwater. But the mystical jewels went down the drain. So we're going to retrieve some beautiful mystical jewels. Because I will present to you the mystical jewels of these traditions that where they speak of the natural laws, what is above and below, that's the heart of the Our Father. As it is in heaven, so it is on earth. Jesus never taught sexuality. He taught the laws. He taught the laws of healing. If you're interested in healing, then you're interested in Jesus. If you're not, but who's not interested in healing? He was a teacher of the cosmic laws of the soul. That's it. Everything else, human beings got their hands on. And you know what happens then? Okay? But this is how holy language got tossed down the drain. All right, now, and let me say, because the holy language of Jesus and Buddha is not that familiar, but because the holy language of the cosmic healer got tossed down the drain, in my opinion, this is my opinion, and as I say to everybody, leave it at the door if it doesn't feel right to you. Leave it at the door when you leave here. But because his role was to engage a template for the our healing of our interior and our management of our soul, like Buddha was. The two together are the perfect team. In tossing aside the language to navigate our soul, that our soul needs compassion, that we need to look upon each other with compassion, or we harm ourselves. We do great harm to ourselves. That if we must understand that what we do to the least of us, we're doing to ourselves. That's a law. That's a mystical law that we're now seeing in physics. This is just a law. What you do to, you see it in your biology, what you do to one cell, you're doing to the whole. What you do to one organ, you do to the whole. It is a law, that's all. And you can take that law and you could throw it into Buddhism, and Buddha would say, that's right. That's right. Buddha teaches this a version of the very same thing. It's all one, Buddha says. It's all one. So these are not recruitment tactics to become a Catholic. Oh, Lordy, although I have been approached by a Catholic and asked to do recruitment. I said no. Okay. All right. Now, in our journey up this, eventually, you get to a place in your own life where you're only way through your crisis, your health crisis, your marriage crisis, your personal crisis, your dilemma is to become impersonal, or you won't get through. You won't get through it. By taking it personally, you are jammed. By telling yourself, but my pain in this is much worse than anybody else's. My rejection, my divorce, my loss, you just don't get it. My loss is... I had a workshop once, and a woman lost her child. Everybody in my family's lost a child. My mother, my grandparents, my aunts, everybody. So I grew up going to funerals of cousins and my brother and so I knew what it was like to see this loss and to see my elders mourn from the get-go, and to see how they handled the loss, what they considered to be the ultimate loss. And I have a friend who lost all three of her children. One of my very best friends, my very dearest friends, lost all three of her children. Daughter on the same day as her son 1 year later. Yes. And her choice was, I can either collapse from this or not. And my only way not is to find a way to serve others. I got to get out of this. And that's how she did it. And she's one of the most spectacular people of service in the community in which I live. So, but this individual insisted that her pain, her loss, was greater than anybody else's because of the way her son died. And she was very vocal about it and bitter. And what I realized through that was that here in this turning point between the impersonal level of your life and the personal is this battlefield ultimately between you and God. It's archetypal and it's unconscious, conscious, unconscious, conscious. in which you are raging against what has happened to you. And if your rage is loud enough, if your anger is ferocious enough, there is a part of you that actually thinks God will return your life the way you want it. That it will all be put back into place just the way you want it. Because finally, and this goes with the father figure God, you as a child, a screaming child, will get the paternal father to finally cave. And you will get your life back. Get rid of that A. You will get your life back. Because finally God gave in. Because your tantrum got to be cosmic sized. Otherwise, you're simply not going to play the game anymore. And you're going to stop making choices, and you're going to lock in, and you will, in fact, begin the journey of living your life through making other people suffer. And your choices will go the other direction. You'll punish others because you are unhappy. And you'll let them know, and maybe they will serve as messengers to God for your misery. And that's what you'll do. I'll show you. I will scream at other people. I will pout. I will be awful. I will bite every day. No, I'm not happy. This isn't good enough. No. Can you relate? Anybody doing that? Anybody presently doing that? Sometimes? Okay. Quite often. I got a sometimes, I got a quite often. What else have I got? Not anymore.
Not sure.
I'm not sure. I might. I'm right.
I'm right in it.
Oh, you're right in it. Okay, you're a pro. That's called a pro. Professional. Anyone else?
I used to be pro.
And you used to, and you, what are you now? Retired? You have an occasional lapse. That counts. Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay. Because that's what we do. We go up and down. We go up and down. It's like time for me to return. I need a good dose of who I used to be. Yeah.
Or half a day of self-pity. It's just...
Yeah, self-pity. Yeah, time for me to have some self-pity. I'll be right back. Yeah, an hour self-pity every Tuesday afternoon. Don't come near me. Don't call. You're going. Everybody, the goal is not perfect. Stop it. The goal is not perfect. The goal is to get a hold of yourself as best as you can and try again and again. This is not about perfect, never will be. My God, stop it. Okay? So, this journey of having anger tantrums and saying this isn't working and I'm really angry, what I want you to really pay attention to is if your anger tantrums are really at God, are really cosmic, and that in your inability to get to God, you got to beat up someone and anyone else will do. And to actually see if you can get in touch with that thread, that this anger is cosmic in size, which is why I just can't reconcile it. And it's why you want to bite somebody. Because anger is a verb. It's not a noun. And it wants to come out. And it wants to get expression. And you want to move the universe with your anger. Which is why people, when we're angry, we have to let someone know. We're not even fussy. Even pottery. Right? We don't care. We want to kick the television. We want to throw out our phone. We don't care. Anger makes us explode. Or we implode. Which is why it's so harmful to our body. It is a hot fire. It's a bad hot fire. And anger is, we're not getting our way. We're not getting our way. We're not getting our way. Pound, pound, thrash, thrash, I'm leaving. Okay? So it's really this stage of deciding the world doesn't revolve around me. I have got to take a deep breath and get to another level of consciousness, because this ain't working. This ain't working. Maybe this universe doesn't revolve around me. This transition is when you start to say this, I need to take this impersonally. What would your life look like? What would people look like? What would your world look like if you engaged from an impersonal point of view? Which is, I may be married to this person, but this person has his own journey too, or her own journey too. Which is an extraordinary thought. And we are together for a bit, but there are all kinds of people pressing in this person's journey that have nothing to do with me. So I'm going to open the lens on this person that I'm married to and actually think, oh my God, there are other people influencing this person other than me, and I have to sit down and think about that. I'm not sure I like that. And it could be that this person also is seeking his or her charism, as I am. And has also asked, what is my life purpose? And what if his life purpose doesn't include me? I mean, I'm fine that mine might not include him. But I got to get there first. Yeah? Am I onto it? I'm so onto it, right? I got to get to this finish line first. Okay? That once we get to an impersonal position, what you are looking at is, here's the operative sacred word, truth. That's what the truth of life looks like. That's what the truth looks like. That we are actually just all on a journey, so long as our souls need this part. So long as we need. And as soon as the soul says, we've gone as far as we need to go, time to part, what needs to crumble down here is going to crumble. And if you had the eyes of your soul open, discernment, you would say, oh, these are the signals that it's shutting down. And I'm feeling it shutting down. And if it was a small issue, something very tiny that didn't matter to you, you can feel that, like, here's something. You can feel when a dinner's coming to an end with friends. Because it doesn't matter. You can feel, okay, it's getting time to go. You can feel the energy shutting down. Everybody can feel it. Nobody said, let's shut down now. All right, everybody, deep breath. Let's shut down our evening. I've never been to a dinner where someone's done that. However, collectively, everybody feels, just like you can feel when the plane's begun to go down, descending. You feel the second the plane does it. The second you can feel it. It's the same thing. You feel a party going into descent. Because everybody collectively is shutting down. And then what happens if you observe very carefully, everybody takes a sigh. The indication, I'm pulling in my energy, flaps down. And then the conversation has this, well, you know, and they start talking, changing it to a lighter, all right, shut down the heart, flaps down. Shut down, let's pull in our toys. Conversation begins to get lighter. We're heading out the door. Because no one ends with, and then my God, he said he's leaving me, I gotta go home. Nobody ends with blood on the floor. Right, yeah? So you have to wrap it up and say, so listen, I'll call you about that recipe. You got to lighten it up, right? You got to lighten it up. I'll call you about the recipe. That's great. I love you. Bye, bye. Click out. It's collective. And you know exactly how that's done. You know exactly how it's done. But so we know how that's done on the first floor baby level, where the consequences of it doesn't matter. So don't think your sensors aren't out. You know exactly what it feels like. You know exactly how that intuitive language works. But doing it at that level of living, breathing creatures, where the consequence is much larger, that's where we decide, I don't want to read this. So we run back to the first floor. Okay, so I want you to hold this in your head and tell you that this, and just say, as we go up to the impersonal, the important place I want you to be able to focus on is here, which is your penthouse. And the penthouse view is the big time impersonal archetypal. And I will refer to this quite often in our time together, to say, I want you to have the archetypal, let's go up to the archetypal level, so I can explain what's going on as impersonally and cosmically, to give you the great big huge perspective. And the archetypal perspective on your life, which is an impersonal view of something that's unfolding in your life, so that you, and someone that's had a near-death experience, for example, has come back and said, I don't feel personal about my own life anymore. And it's wonderful. It's so liberating. It's a life, and it's a gift, and it's one of many journeys. And I feel so able to do whatever I want now. I've had the blinders lifted. I was so greedy and selfish and thinking this is all I have and I have to take everything, and oh my God, I was so frightened, and now I feel like, wow, this is a new experience and I can do anything and I can talk to anybody. I have been freed from the hell of thinking, this is the only person that'll give me security and I can only do this and I can only do that. Thank God I died. And if I knew I would have died again, I would have wanted to die years ago. Okay? That's, yeah.
Can you explain what you mean by archetype?
Oh, yes. Okay, very good. An archetype, have you ever people watched? And when you people watch, what do?
I make decisions and judgments about them.
You judge. Wait a minute, I need to get a microphone to you. Watch this. Microphone. This is Beth. Yeah.
Sure. What do you want me to say?
I want you to ask the question again so everyone can hear it, because
Okay.
this is getting recorded and people are listening.
Right. I was just wondering if you could define archetype, what you mean by the use
Sure.
of the word archetype, please.
And so I asked you, when you people watch, what do you do?
I tend to make up stories about what I think their lives are or what they're doing or where they're at
And why do you think you do that?
to explain what I'm
Ah, da, da, da.
I've just flown here, so I'm just thinking about when I was at the airport, probably to pass the time of day, to amuse myself, to sort of fill in the gaps about them, whoever I'm watching.
It's brilliant, but no. Okay, but it's close. That's the consequence of what you're doing. You are reading their archetypes,
Oh, okay.
okay? And you're labeling them. Boom, 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 boom. Because, remember yesterday I was talking about how we have to organize power? An archetype is a label. So when you label them, you start with one word. Okay? So, pick a word. Quick. Come on.
Earnest.
Earnest, and because earnest comes with, pick a label. That's a quality
Yeah.
that goes with what kind of person? Would you say teacher, mother?
Mother.
Mother.
Yep.
Are you a mother? Bingo.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you have picked me for a mother?
Yes,
Huh.
actually.
Well, I actually have mothered my brother's kids.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I am very motherly. Yes. Okay. So, that the mother, those are archetypes, those strong labels. Mother, child, victim, prostitute, geek, thief, all these major titles. And from those power labels, we then get the qualities: earnest, caring, devouring, creepy.
So in the context of what you were just saying about getting to the penthouse, is the goal to refine your understanding of your own archetype?
And all the events of the world.
Right.
Because we are the engine of the events. Nothing happens on this world without us. We are the engines. Nothing just happens. So our archetypal patterns collectively form the archetypal engines of what's happening in the world. From Brexit to the breakdown to the eruption of wars, to whatever is happening in the world, we are a part of that. Like in my country right now, and across the Middle East, and if I were just teaching a history class, the way I would teach history is I would begin with saying there are several major wars that are repeating themselves. And their pattern has been reanimated. And if you can see that, you can look down on the earth and understand exactly what's happening, and that people are playing roles on the earth. If you look at the United States, the moment Barack Obama became president, he's stepped out of the place of Abraham Lincoln, the state of Illinois, constitutional lawyer, and the moment he was sworn in, the Civil War began with what was called the shot fired at Fort Sumter in the South. The equivalent of that, and you have to see it symbolically, not literally. was Dick Cheney not standing for the inauguration, the swearing in of Barack Obama. He shows up in a wheelchair. A complete act of disrespect. There was nothing wrong with his back. It was a total act of disrespect.
Because Barack was black.
Total. Secondly, Mitch McConnell, who is symbolically Jefferson Davis, the Confederate leader of the South, declares secede from the Union, fellas, and all the Southern white boy Republicans declare obstruct, obstruct, obstruct. And that was the beginning of the Civil War, the Second Civil War. And they withdrew. They should have been arrested on the spot. And that began the Second Civil War. And the second level of the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing the slaves, should have been freeing the nation from the hold the corporations have on the Congress, the legislative body. But as a result of Obama failing this time, unlike Lincoln, the whole population of the United States is now enslaved under corporate rule. World War I has been repeated in Europe, and the exact pattern of the corporations trying to take over the monarchy of the Arab world for oil. The exact thing they did in World War I. Exact, to redistribute the monarchy of Europe for democracy, etc. And the whole thing is, and World War II replayed to reverse the accomplishments in the EU. Putin invading this time. You have to see, but you have to see, and then our role in activating, and not, oh, it's so big. Don't get me started, but let's go back to what matters here, instead of getting me to teach history, because I won't leave here. I won't leave here. But I have to say something. Lori and I went to the same high school. And she's older. No. And I hang out with my high school history teacher, who's also a good friend of Lori's. And my high school history teacher got me hooked on history. So I have to bow to Mary Stefani, because I remember the first day Mary Stefani came into class, and the first lecture she gave, and the clothes she was wearing. It so impressed me. And I remember her talking about Roman history, and I just sat there, my jaw dropped. It was so interesting. And Mary Stefani is a legend. Is she not a legend? She's a legend. She's such a superb teacher. And she just filled my soul with the love of history. And I have never stopped reading history. I have never, ever, ever stopped reading history. My house is filled with it. I read 6, 7 history books at a time. I never read books on spirituality except Teresa and the mystics. But I owe it all to Mary and what one teacher can do for you, right? So don't get me started on history, because I will keep you up all night. It's your history I'm interested in. And if you don't think history is important, if you don't, all I have to do is ask you one question. Tell me about yourself, but leave out your history. But leave out your history. Don't tell me anything about your history. Not interested. But tell me all about yourself. You're nothing without your history. Nothing. You're nothing. You're a blank page. Nobody could understand a thing about you without your history. Not one thing. Not one thing. And if someone wanted to understand you completely, they would have to understand the symbolic meaning of the things that happened, wouldn't they? Just telling them this happened, or that happened, or this person said boo to me, wouldn't mean anything. You would say, well, so what? But you would have to take everybody to the symbolic level. You would have to say, wait, come up here. You don't get what it meant. You would have to take everybody way up to your penthouse to give them the archetypal meaning of what it meant to you. You would have to say, look, I was victimized when I was a kid. So what that person did to me was in fact symbolic of what was done to me for years and years and years. It's not just a small thing. This is the power of this and this. And for every person who feels victimized, they are energetically attached to every other person who feels victimized. And that's how the victim voice was created in our world today. So everybody who relates to the victim is part of the whole mothership. And you are a little ship attached to the mothership. And that big mothership is now participating in the creation of victim events, both getting victimized and victim legislation, and the victimization and raising victim consciousness. Because and similarly, there are archetypes getting turned off. The princess and the knight. And this is the country to talk about that. Because the princess and the knight are getting pulled down now out of the cosmos, and the queen and the king. They will be no more. And this is the last country. And it is no surprise that it's happening at a time like Brexit, where the rocking and rolling of the great power of this great nation is trembling. And the nation is saying, no, we'll be independent again. No, we'll be independent again. We will be an empire again. We will be a monarchy again. This is England trying to claim its once great monarchy status. No. It's going to backfire like crazy because it's archetypally backwards. So, anyway. So here we go. Now, what's happening in all of us? It's a lot to take in, yeah? So what? Take a breath. What is meant to happen now is that the religions are meant to come down. From the earth point of view, they're coming down in all kinds of catastrophes. They're coming down in all kinds of catastrophic things. Symbolically, I want you up here so that you don't get caught up in the paperwork of how they're falling and why they're falling. It's that they're falling that you have to understand. That we are coming to the end of an era, just like we came to the end of the Roman era, the Greek era, and new templates of how people would understand and access the heavens were born. And the new templates that were born were Christianity and an inner template that was added to the journey of Judaism, Christianity, Buddhism, templates that access an interior journey. A template that said there was access of the inner self, that there was something in the inner power. And so we had 2,000, 2,500 years of that type of power, of human beings going on a different type of journey that was more independent of the external type of journey of the gods that had absolutely no touch with interior life. That's what Buddhism, Judaism, Hinduism, that's what these journeys brought into people, was more of an inner life. And Hinduism is older, but it did not reach it didn't kind of reach the same level that Buddhism and Christianity did. Those two would have more legs. Okay, what's happening now is that these religions are going to fade into the background so far as their physical expression goes, so far as their capacity to become part of our physical identity and the power it has in our physical identity. We won't live to see that. We won't live to see that. And the reason this is happening is because they have so much capacity to divide us from each other. In one of the principles of health is in the body, mind, spirit template, as we move into the era of energy medicine, is that we are an integrated system of health. That notion of being integrated is one of the laws of the soul. So one of the laws of the soul is that you need to establish an integrated system of how you see your life, how you live your life, how you manage your body, mind, spirit. You need to, this is part of holy language, the word integrated. That when you separate something from the whole in you, when your calculations say, they're fine, but not that person, but not this, that you need to understand that you are going to experience that separation in your bio-spiritual nature. That becomes a signal to divide something in you. That cell division will feel that. That's a signal for some part of your cells to divide, to mutate. Okay, so I'm going to say this differently. When we got into the quantum age of physics, we got into the quantum age of our bio-spiritual anatomy. In these last decades, we have become obsessed with our interior self, our inner frontier, to the extent that we have become focused on examining the power of every word we say, of processing every word we say, of actually not being able to get over for 20 and 30 years a phrase someone said to us. A phrase. They said, I would never be good enough. I would never amount to something. And still after 20 and 30 years, people are processing that. Instead of saying, will you get over yourself? But they can't. They can't. And not until I got into healing and holy language did I finally think, my God, that's brilliant. We have become narcissists. But here's the thing. Now I get that narcissism is an essential stage of our learning how powerful every word we say is. And in order for us to actually get how powerful an act of creation is in every single word we say. We are not meant to learn the power of what someone said to us, but the power of what we say to others. That's the goal. Get over what someone said to you. It is the means through which you recognize the power in every word you use with others, and how incredibly powerful every single word is. That's what this learning is about. It's about, my God, am I powerful? If one word they say can knock me out, what about what I say? I'm one powerful piece of work here. This is what this time is about. We are learning what extraordinarily powerful beings we are. And that the new monastery is the earth. This is our new monastery. This is our new church. This is our new ashram. We can't be contained in a building anymore. We cannot. We cannot be contained in a building. We all creatures are creatures we will pray with and serve with. This is the new theology. We are one with nature. And I will tell you that where we have made our great error and where we are coming back from, and I'm going to describe this because in some way you need to see if you're losing power from this, is that in these last beginning centuries ago, but it's reached its apex, its worst place now. And it's given us the world we live in now in terms of climate change, in terms of weaponry, in terms of where we are. That beginning with, Copernicus and Galileo, and when it was discovered that the Earth revolved around the sun, and that, in fact, this was a very law-abiding universe. Law-abiding. That everything was a system of law and order. Planets had cycles, nature has cycles, the tide has cycles. Everything does. Which meant God has cycles. That was the jump to theology that almost got Galileo burned. It meant God had cycles, that God was a being of law and order. Now this has direct application to us, that there are divine laws and divine order, and that rules your life. Now, beginning with Galileo and Copernicus, roughly around that time, that was so thrilling for people that it launched science because it took people out of the superstitious age. It meant things had explanations. It meant there could be reasons, actual reasons why things happened as they did. And it was thrilling for people. There were reasons why. Oh, look, there were reasons why apples fell from trees. It's called gravity. There were reasons. So laws were created. It was thrilling. And it meant there were reasons. And eventually, there was a shift in Western thinking, all of which is in our blood and bones, that if you can't reason, you have no value. It meant that only creatures that reason can be saved, can be protected, can legislate. And eventually, those creatures that have reasoning power were white males. And it also formed your idea of God, which is that heaven is a reasonable place. So all of you speak like there must be a reason for this, or am I wrong?
Yeah.
And that reason has to be logical. And you also pray that way. You also pray with the idea that you are praying to a God of practicality. I want the answer to my prayer to be practical. I need some proof here. I need it to be a guaranteed safe passage or I ain't going. I need it to be foolproof financially. Don't screw up there. Or am I wrong? Okay. And make sure I'm not humiliated. Anyone want to challenge that? What?
I do. I have a question.
No.
Oh, I need that.
You need the microphone. I really appreciate you waiting for the microphone, and you'll appreciate it too, because this is recorded.
Now that makes me really nervous.
It should. Go. But I thank you for being on. Go, Nancy.
Okay. So, I didn't lose it here. So, we're looking for there is a reason for everything.
Mm-hmm.
So then does it also mean that everything doesn't happen for a reason?
Oh, everything happens for a reason.
Okay.
But it has nothing to do with you 90% of the time.
Okay.
And that's my point. Everything it operates according to cause and effect in action and reaction. But how many actions and reactions are involved in the creation of something? How many? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, take one event. How many actions and reactions are involved in putting out coffee and tea?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But just track that. They're the people who grew the tea, packaged it. How many actions and reactions? You could think, well, the person who brought up the tea, wrong. Wrong. And then there are the people who gave birth to the people who raised the tea.
Oh my God. And it goes on
And it goes on and on. So, and it's important to understand that. And then it's all the karma they have. Yeah? Right? It's important to understand that because I'm not making things up. I am telling you, all of that is an ingredient. All of it is an ingredient. And now apply it to your life. How many influences are there in a single choice? Or is there such a thing as a single choice? So when somebody, this is why I won't do readings anymore. Where do I start? Where do I start? When you are here, you speak to me from the position of this mathematics. For every one incident, there's one solution. Because you live here, when you're on the first floor, you live in the mentality of 1-to-1. Because that's how you want your world to work. That for every one problem, there's one solution. And you want a God that operates that simply. You want a one-on-one God. You want your problems to be that easily solved. You want everything reduced. I mean, everybody does. This is first floor living. That's why it's such a mess on the first floor. Everybody wants on the first floor of life for things to be easily solved, easily resolved in their favor, a fast explanation, because that's how it looks like. And they measure everything like, if I'm out of pain, I'm fine. Just get me out of pain and solve this. No interest in what's going on behind the scenes or how it was really created, which is why none of these problems are ever solved. Because the energetics that created the problem are never dealt with. Whereas if someone could really see their universe, I would snap it and you would pop out like a hologram. And on your hologram would be wait a minute, let me see if I can draw this. This is not a pumpkin. Wait, do you remember latitude and longitude when you were learning it as a child? These are not the best pens I've ever had. And I'm worried that you can't see them. Okay, but this is really an important visual. I don't have many, so we're almost done with my visuals. But this is kind of important. Okay. Wait. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Here you are. Okay. There you are. This is you in your hologram. And that is really where you're living. You are actually in a hologram of energy. You really are in this hologram. And that is far. Thanks, Beth. Thank you. You know what? I just love this. Okay. Now, you're too good. Now, all of these are like communication circuits that are. Here's a law of the universe. You're constantly in motion, and you're constantly receiving data, email. Think of it like your energy mail. You're constantly receiving archetypal data from all your archetypal patterns. So it's constantly flowing through you. You're constantly in an active creation. It never stops. And if you were really, really still and used to, here's holy language, the practice of contemplation and reflection, you would get accustomed to sensing what energy in your field is you personally and what is impersonal. You would sense what is you personally and what is impersonal. To give you an example of that, all of you have had the experience, I have a foreign object in my eye. All of you have had the experience of walking in a room and instantly responding to the energy and saying, I don't like it in here. Am I mistaken? Okay, that's what it's like to be hit with impersonal energy. The energy has nothing to do with you, but you sensed it instantly. And you thought, I don't like it, I got to get out of here. And so you know what impersonal energy feels like. And all of us are receiving impersonal, personal, constantly. We are breathing with it all the time. And And sometimes that impersonal energy blends with your personal, and it can sweep you into and shift your mood. And it can shift your mood this fast, and it can take you into a place of what you experience as despair. What you experience as sudden sadness, or what my mother calls the blues. And you think, I don't know why I just feel so awful today, or I feel so low. And I'll say to her, what's the matter? Nothing happened, but I just feel so low today. Have any of you experienced that? Just like out of the blue. Out of the blue. But you will always take it personally. You think there's something going on in your life, but there isn't. Because you haven't yet developed the receptors to recognize this isn't mine. This isn't mine. And this is a classic absence of spiritual insight, where the inability to recognize a spiritual current, holy language. This is a spiritual current. This isn't mine. And I need to breathe this through. I need to breathe this through. This extraordinary time is one in which I believe we have been wired to be a type of new mystic. That our consciousness is in the process of opening to what I think of as mystical consciousness. The capacity to have our inner senses open up to become our dominant senses, to work with our intellectual sensory system, and to rein in what happened when I was saying earlier, let me finish what I was saying, that as we evolved in the centuries with reason, it brought us to the place where I left off with that saying that, we've gotten to the place where if something can't reason, it has no value. That is how we've come to make laws that abuse nature, because nature can't reason, that abuse animals, because animals can't reason, that are so abusive to so many forms of life, children can't reason. Okay, but it also has done this. It has caused us to close down access to our inner reasoning capacity or our mystical skills. It has caused us to trust our mental reasoning over our intuitive faculties. It has caused us to rely upon our five senses externally and to mistrust what cannot be seen, weighed, touched, tasted, felt, or measured in a lab. We have gone the way of science and gone the way of our intellect and put all our eggs in that basket, including the way we have formed the nature and debate about God. If God can't be proven, then there is no God. That the nature of God has to follow in scientific proof. And what has happened over the century is that we have turned down our own intuitive senses, and especially in the last 70 years. And in that process, to accommodate the exponential rise of our intellect and our technology and our finances and all the decisions we've made to push ahead with our earth-based skill, we've radically shut down our moral skill. We've radically shut down our ethics. We've radically shut down all of our inner capacity, and we created a false spirituality that when it opened up in the 60s, this idea of love and light, we tossed that out, and instead of going the language of spirituality, we went the language of energy. Energy has no sacred context to it. Energy has no sacred context to it at all. So I can say to you, well, you have all this energy around you, but there's nothing sacred about energy at all. Nothing. Zero. So you can go for energy healing and you'll relax, but you'll never get healed. The other word that has no holiness is the word consciousness. It means nothing. It means nothing at all. There's nothing you associate. It means recycling. It can mean anything you want, but it has no sacredness attached to it. The word conscience we've tossed out. This is what I mean by tossing out the babies with the bathwater. The word conscience got tossed out. That is sacred because it's attached to right or wrong, good or bad. It is attached to your intuitive metronome. It says, this is right, this is wrong, a crisis of my conscience. And we replaced it with consciousness, which has no metronome. It doesn't mean anything. And the consequence of that is that we live in a world where we have decided what is right or wrong on our own. It's become relative. There is no relativity about right or wrong. There's a fundamental. But we've decided that it's not true, not for us anyway. So we've cut ourselves free to decide that there is no such thing as evil. There's no such thing as bad. We just like good. It's like living in a world where we've decided there's only sunshine, but no darkness. And so darkness is free to do what it wants, but we've become more superstitious. We hang rocks around ourselves and feathers and do all other kinds of rituals because we have no holy rituals anymore. So we have rock rituals and feather rituals and fire rituals to protect ourselves from negativity because in our instincts we know there's such things as negativity. But we can't bring ourselves to say the language anymore. We can't actually say, there's a demon here. We can't say the language. We've tossed it out. Meanwhile, what's skyrocketing is madness, acts of madness, spiritual depression, crises of the soul. We've tossed out confession, and I don't mean it as a Catholic thing. I mean it as the acknowledgement that I have chosen to harm you. I have chosen. I know exactly what I'm doing. And I am acting against my intuition, but I'm doing it anyway. And what confession is the admission of that. All we have is the social nonsense of saying, I accept responsibility, which is not the same as cleansing the soul and looking at someone and saying, your intuition caught me. You caught me. You know exactly what I did. And now I have to own it. You see the difference? I have to confess that my soul has harmed your soul because you sensed exactly what I was doing. I knew exactly what I was doing, and I knew that my choice was going to harm your life, and you would pay a price for it, and it didn't stop me. And you caught me. And then I lied to you about it, and I said I never meant to hurt you, when in fact I knew it would hurt you, and I didn't give a damn. So on top of it, I lied to you. And now that we are opening our soul skills of intuition, we can't get away with those kinds of things anymore. We must, but because we do not cleanse ourselves at that integrous level anymore, we are suffering from the absence of truth. And that creates madness. But we threw that baby out with the bathwater. So, break time. Save your questions for break time, for when we come back, because they're always so good. Come have some tea.